It is January the 8th, 2025. I almost said 2024. Can you believe it? What a day, huh? So it's been a few days since I've done any streams. I apologize. I was just kind of unable to stream for personal reasons that we're not going to get into right now. But here we are, and still haven't resolved the old housing situation. But I do have my applications out at a couple of places, so we'll see how that goes. But as you can see, we are still in the same place, and hopefully we'll be moving out of here soon. Um, the sooner the better, right? Um, so a couple of things before we get started on the stream. If you don't mind, give me a thumbs up. So just let me know that you can see and hear me okay. I would appreciate it. And I think I saw Rocket in there. So y'all just be kind to each other and no no name calling, no ad hominems. But as Rocket knows, like we do try to give the noobs, if there are ever any noobs, a bit of leeway because we were all noobs at one point, and it is very easy to mistake a noob for a globetard, right? But there are some pretty big differences, right? What's up, Sea Lightning? Um, so okay, so we got 12 people in the live stream and only 4 thumbs among the lot of yous. So I mean, I guess y'all broke your arms, broke your hands off or something. I don't know. I'm sure we can do better than 4, but we'll take it. I just maybe y'all can't hear me, and that's what I'm thinking is the problem. I don't know. Anyways, so before we get started, I did hear back from Kristen Wolf today, and so there is a good chance that we may be able to get her at least on for a call or maybe a stream. Um, because there's definitely a few things that I want to talk to Kristen Wolf about. And I didn't have her phone number in my phone, but luckily I was scouring through some of my old email accounts that I don't much use anymore. But I had a bunch of phone numbers backed up from my old phone onto one of my email accounts that I don't much use. And I had Kristen's number. So I sent her a text, and apparently she did still have the same number. And lo and behold, the whole time we were friends on Facebook the whole time, and I just forgotten about it. So she hit me up on Facebook. I'm kind of dumb like that, and I really don't fuck with. I don't mess with social media too much. Like I'll pop into Facebook from time to time, but it's like I'm only one person, man, and it's like there's just so many damn different social media platforms now. It's like you can maybe master one, but if you start spreading yourself too thin, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old fart, but it seems like like at some point they would come up with a like a single thing that just posts to all the social medias, right? Or maybe we could just all agree on one social media. I don't know. That's kind of stupid too. And there's like if I'm thinking of it now, there's probably 10 solutions for that. Like so you just type in one thing and it posts all your shit on Twitter and X and all the others, right? Twitter and X. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we're gonna get the both Kristens on for the same at the same time. That would be sweet. Um, but again, so if you guys aren't aware of what happened, so basically I'm an idiot, and so like a random person named Kristen who was not the Kristen I knew years ago, um, hit me up on text and offered to send me a computer. And so before just giving up my address to any old person that texts me, like I'm like, well, let's talk on the phone. And when we spoke on the phone and I heard this other Kristen's voice, like I just knew instantly that it was the Kristen that I knew because they sounded so similar. And maybe they don't even sound that damn similar. I don't know, but I just thought I thought it was her. And yes, her last name was different, and yes, her boyfriend or husband's name was different, but it's been years since I spoken with her, and I just kind of assumed that maybe she got married or like I don't know, man. I didn't want to pry, And so like the whole thing was kind of a funny misunderstanding that culminated on a live stream where I'm basically like remembering the good old times with Kristen, and she's like, yeah, dude, but like I really don't even know you like that. Finally, she come out and said some shit, and I'm like, okay, but you used to be Kristen Wolf, right? And she's like, no, dude. And I'm like, oh my god. So it was very like embarrassing and hilarious and everything. But so I did reach out to Kristen Wolf, and I have since spoken with her just as of like 20 minutes ago or something, you know, very recently this evening. And so hopefully we will at least get to hear from her, because, you know, Kristen Wolf in particular was somebody that I feel like was thrown under the bus by the Flurfer Mafia years ago. And her and I kind of had I'm not even really sure what happened. I mean, I guess we kind of had a personal falling out over I really don't even know what it was. I really don't know, but we kind of had a falling out and we just stopped talking. And it's been years, you know, it's been a long time. And so when this other person, Kristen, offered to send me a computer, you know, that's pretty rad for just a random stranger to do that. But when I spoke with old girl on the phone, I just thought it was Kristen that I knew, because they do have similar voices for sure. But so that ought to be a trip. Like if we can get them together on the same stream, I think it would be fire, dude. Like, because they're both super smart, they both sound good, and you know, like it would be a really cool stream, I think, to have them both on. I'm trying for that. I'm rooting for it. Also, a housekeeping item. I'm going to be on live with Xavier and Dave on Zetetic News Network, ZNN, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So y'all definitely, if you're not already, go over and subscribe to ZNN. I'm not simulcasting this one here or anything. It's just going to be on ZNN. So y'all go on YouTube. I've got it. There's a link in the description to this video you're watching right now to the watch page of the thing for tomorrow. So you can follow that and then just sub over to ZNN for sure. It'll make it easier, because it ought to be a good stream. I've streamed with these guys before and it's always been fire. Well, actually, I think the ones we did before, like I've hung out with them a couple times, 2 or maybe 3 times, and I'm pretty sure all the times that it was like pre-recorded and then uploaded later on. But for this one, it's going to be a live deal, okay? And they're also they're going to be doing call-ins for sure. So if you want to call in and talk to, you know, any of us on the thing, it's going to be me, Xavier, and Dave. Just they've got I think it's a toll-free number to call in. What's up, Bob Dilson? McToon reported that Jaronism stated he's no longer a flurfer. Have I heard this? Yeah, I just read the apparently what was Jaron's Twitter X post or whatever. I just read it probably 20 minutes ago. That is pretty shameful, man. Like I'm kind of I'm a little bit hurt that he didn't even mention my name in that thing at all. But that's kind of been a running theme with Jaronism and the Globebusters to, like, at all costs never mention my name on anything, because that would be a big problem for, like, you know, the system or whatever, you know, if they started plugging my shit to, you know, to the world. So they make sure at all costs never to say my name on anything. So, like, my feelings aren't hurt, but it's just kind of like more of the same. But so the thing that he wrote on X was basically like calling all flat earthers a cult and pieces of shit, like stupid pieces of shit, basically. And these are people that has been supporting him. He's basically just shit on everybody that's been supporting him for like a decade in that post, if that was really his post. Like, I don't know, I didn't hear him say any words, but there's like a very long post from X, Twitter or whatever, that is attributed to Jaronism and Jaronism, and yeah, what a motherfucker, dude. What a bitch. It's a bitch right there. But anyway, we didn't come on here to talk about that, but yeah, I've seen it. Why make it about me? No offense. No, like, yeah, no, I know. Well, no, because that it is kind of a thing, because I have been talking a lot of shit about Jaron for the last week or so, or really since before even the Antarctica footage came back. And the thing is I've never said shit about any of those people for years. And like, I've long considered Jaron a friend, but you know, we kind of, I guess, had a falling out because friends don't let friends like fall by the wayside and become homeless, especially friends that have been like working for you for free for years and years, like sometimes like fucking 3 hour shifts on like multiple days a week, you know, but whatever. I didn't ask for anything. But like usually, I don't know. I just feel like the whole time that I was on Globebusters, there was never any cross promotion of me, right, as a YouTuber who was working for them for free. But like recently, when they were gearing up for this whole charade with the final experiment, they were absolutely cross promoting the shit out of all the known globe trolls. Like, and when you've got people like Lyman Dan saying that Jaronism is such a great guy, like that ought to be a bit of a red flag for like anybody that's been watching this for any amount of time. So no, I'm not making it about me. I was really kind of being facetious, but I kind of would have liked to see Jaren call me a motherfucker in that thing because I have been kind of, you know, deserving of at least some kind of something from Jarenism. But no, you're never going to hear my name come out of his mouth anywhere publicly because the last thing that Jaren or any of those motherfuckers want is people that they're talking to finding my work, right? So, like, first of all, there's a committee of probably a dozen people at YouTube getting paid, I don't know, like $250,000 a year to make sure that y'all don't find my videos, right? And plenty of other flat earthers out there and other sort of genres of truth stuff, right? And so congratulations for even finding my work, right? But no, I mean, maybe I am a little bitter, you know, and maybe it seems that I'm a little bitter, and maybe I am a little bitter. I'm not that fucking bitter, man. I promise. What, babe? What? Uh, you're gonna have to crack that window there. Here, I'll do it. Let me go crack this window, y'all. It's only freezing outside. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm not that bitter, but no, I mean, like, you know, I think Jaren and I and even Bob had a great chemistry for a long time. We had a lot of fun on all those shows, and it's like the role that Jaren's playing right now, like all like, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes only, he's playing a role and he doesn't really have much of a choice. Okay, but I don't know. I mean, if that's true, then that means he took a payout too. I don't. This is all speculation. But the Jarenism that I know, like if he was put in a position where he was basically forced to cook for the globe, then he would make it obvious, right? And that's kind of exactly what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a question in my mind that dude is like, um, did any of the shit that he's done for the last year on his own volition, right? Um, I mean, maybe that's all him. I don't know, but see, but that would mean he's like a flaming absolute fucking narcissist, right? I mean, if like the role he's been playing for the last year is actually him, then that's, you know, with friends like that, who needs fucking enemies, right? With knives in your back, right? I don't know, man. But yeah, if that Twitter post was actually him, that's a knife in the back to everybody that supported him over the years. So, wow, it's a struggle for the truth, Willie. Yeah, damn right, Rocket. Okay, so we covered the Kristens thing and the ZNN thing. So be on the lookout for those three, you know, two things, three things, two Kristens and a thing. Okay. No, I mean that's never mind. Just take me with a grain of salt and get your mind out of the gutter. Okay. So tonight's real Earth affirmation, we're going to talk about Antarctica, but you know, one of the biggest travesties that I see of this whole thing is now anytime someone brings up Antarctica, it's always going to point to the final experiment. Or, I mean, the final experiment, and you got to put the air quotes, right? Because there is absolutely so much fascinating shit that you could talk about all day long about Antarctica. But now it's like the sort of psyop is that the final experiment has eclipsed anything that you can talk about Antarctica for probably like years to come, at least in the mainstream. I mean, you know how those crazy fuckers are. But yeah, man, like Antarctica has always been like a big point of interest and fascination, not just in the sort of flat Earth, real Earth truth movement, but really like if you go back all the way to the Nazis during World War II. They were apparently very interested in the Antarctic, and what we saw after the end of World War II and Operation Paperclip is we saw the United States then picking up the torch where the Nazis left off and spending, countless, billions of dollars sending expeditions down to Antarctica, public expeditions that we know about, and almost certainly private, top secret expeditions that are classified that we'll never know about, right? But the one that everybody knows about is obviously Operation High Jump, which was very important. That involved U.S. Navy Admiral Richard Byrd. This was like around 1955 or so. And during Operation High Jump, they sent a couple of different teams of like large destroyers and battleships and stuff, like big budget Navy expeditions down to the Antarctic. And from what I remember, there's a pretty good documentary on it you can still find on YouTube. But from what I remember, they sent two teams that were like, I think the idea was they were supposed to like meet up, but they started at different starting points. And like the second team, they never talk about it in the documentary, but like it seems like they never really met up with the second team. So it's kind of like they were expecting to meet up on the bottom of the ball. And what happened is like, yeah, it's obviously a flat Earth, and so they were like not the meridian lines do not converge back into a point at the bottom of the globe. That's all hypothetical. Like it does appear, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but it does appear that the latitude and longitude geodetic surveying that we base all the latitude and longitude off of was all done in the north, like historically. And we're talking ancient, whoever developed the latitude and longitude first. It seems like it was a worldwide thing that sort of cropped up simultaneously. I don't know too much about that, like the origins of latitude and longitude. I mean, I know that they ascribe it to the ancient Greeks, and I know how they arrived at it by observations of the stars, and especially Polaris for your latitude. I mean, I get that, but in terms of who were the first ones to develop that system, I think that's a bit of a mystery. But the point is, though, is that all of those civilizations that came up with these sort of celestial navigation tools were all in the north, right? And like the ones that were not in the north, it just so happens that like the Roman Catholic Church decimated them, right? And so that would be like the Mayans and others, like in the Aborigines of Australia, right? And so we just don't know what sort of geodetic or large scale geodesic surveying was done in the far south in ancient times to map this damn thing out properly. But what appears happened is they basically took the measurements in the north and, very painstakingly and meticulously measured the degrees of latitude at different longitudes in the north to develop a very accurate map and model of the heavens and what's going on in the north. Now, as far as the South, what they did was they just assumed that it's a sphere and apparently clone stamped the values for the northern degrees of latitude at different longitudes into the South as well. And so, when people say that the meridian lines converge back into a point because it's a ball, no, the meridian lines converge back into a point because they transpose the values from the north to the south, right? And they just called it a ball. But the whole thing about the AE projection being pushed out as like a model when it really isn't a model and it was never supposed to be taken as a model was always very suspect to a lot of people. To me, it was never a big problem because very early on, like I realized that the Earth is definitely measured flat, and like whatever our understanding of the heavens is kind of secondary to that. And so obviously, there is a great deal of mystery to the heavens. And anybody that says there isn't is either a fool or they're fooling themselves. Okay, but sort of back to Antarctica, there is so much wonder and mystery and really just interesting contradictions that we find all over the Antarctic. But again, now this whole conversation is forever going to be sullied by the final experiment. So thanks, Jeranism. Well done, mate. You know, excuse me. Um, Trouble About says, why are the people from the north so ignorant about the south? Maybe you should try coming here. So where are you at, Trouble About? And if you're in the far south, then have you measured different degrees of longitude at different latitudes? What methods did you use? And from which different locations in the far south did you do as such? That would be my questions. Because I've never been south of the equator. So yeah. I mean, you can call that ignorant. I would say maybe not well traveled, but I've never sort of made any claims about my worldliness. You know what I mean? So, or whatever. Okay, so but so Admiral Byrd in like the mid 1950s, I don't know, 1940s, 1950s for high jump. I can't remember exactly, but I believe it was like after World War II and after Project Paperclip. So like we've got Nazis in the government at this point, I believe. And so they sort of picked up the torch and did these large scale expeditions down to the far south. And what Admiral Byrd stated was pretty awesome, pretty amazing, and unequivocally that we should have expected to see like a lot of activity in the far south after, because what he reported was that there was all kinds of goods, like oil and coal and gold and anything you can think of. It's like full of untapped resources in the Antarctic, right? And there aren't any sort of native peoples or even like wildlife that we need to worry about preserving down there. And so really, from the sort of capitalistic corporate fascist mindset of America, it's sort of a foregone conclusion that we should have seen a great deal of industry moving down to the Antarctic after the 1940s and 50s. But instead, we got pretty much as far in the other direction as you can go as from that, right? So we got the Antarctic Treaty, which was kind of bizarre in its own right, because you had, I think, the original signing nations of the Antarctic Treaty. There were like 52 or maybe like 50 plus nations that all agreed, and we're talking like nations that can't agree on shit ever, right? 50 different nations, including like China and the United States. Like I can't remember all of the different 50 nations that signed the original Antarctic Treaty, but they all agreed that the Antarctic should be off limits for corporate and government activity. Like we need to preserve the pristine serenity of the Antarctic was the consensus of all the industrialized nations at the time. And so that's just kind of strange, right? Because I mean, it's more than kind of strange. I mean, we went through energy crisis after energy crisis, like gas shortages and like oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico. Hey, can you turn that down a hair, please? It's really loud. I'm sorry. Oil spills, purchasing crude oil from our frenemies overseas, that kind of thing. And all the while, the Antarctic is just sitting there untapped, allegedly full of resources. And yet, instead of any sort of industry, we get a big old keep out sign, right? And sure, you can take guided tours down to specific points in the Antarctic, but that's pretty much it. Like the thing that we've discussed extensively, and this includes discussions with Jeranism, which is why it's so strange to see his position now. Like we really need to do wide scale circumnavigation and geodetic surveying of the far south in lots of different locations, right? But just to go down to one spot and make a solar observation that is rife with all kinds of very suspect shit, I must say, like that's really strange to me, man. But again, like so now, if nothing else, the what they were going for with the final experiment was anytime somebody Google's flat Earth Antarctica, right? What are they going to find? They're not going to find anything worth a shit but this nonsense with Jaronism and Will Duffy. That's what you're going to find because really they're like the Antarctic is basically key in my opinion to the map, the model, all of it. Like we are missing a lot of the puzzle pieces in the far south. And that's not by accident or because we're ignorant or stupid. It's by direct design, man. We are very well cordoned off in the center of this thing, and they've convinced everybody that we live on an inescapable sphere in space, right? And so there is no sort of motive for exploration. There is no sort of motive to, for our pioneering exploratory spirit to, go crazy. But when we see accounts like the Iron Republic, it makes you wonder if they're willing to spend billions of dollars every year on NASA to fake space in order to perpetuate this lie, then what aren't they willing to do? You think that they're not willing to spend a bunch of money to fake some shit in Antarctica? I'm here to tell you they're definitely willing to do that. They're also willing to fool us with traps and try to get us to make positive claims that I refuse to make. Like, I've done my reaction to the Antarctica stuff. I'm done with that, man. You know, it's kind of a sore spot, but there's not a whole lot of, I may end up eventually responding to, I saw that Jaron uploaded the whole entire flight or something. So I may look at that eventually, but I don't know, man. Like the whole thing makes me kind of ill because I don't know. There's so much other we can. Let's change the subject. Like honestly, um, but in the Antarctic, this was mentioned in Zetetic Astronomy, which is you know a landmark groundbreaking book, and there's all kinds of really interesting information in Zetetic Astronomy. But the one thing that was documented very thoroughly with sources um, were the accounts of the mariners like Captain Cook and others who were directly trying to circumnavigate the far south. Like, and we're not talking about 40 or 50. We're talking about like the Antarctic Circle, and coming back with stories that they could not make their way all around of it, and they were always several degrees behind their reckoning. And these mariners were fully imbued with the concept that the Earth was a sphere, right? And so there is definitely direct evidence that the latitude and longitude system breaks down in the far south for the sphere, right? And that's why just going to one location in the Antarctic isn't really good enough. um and it's definitely worth another watch. That may be something that I do shortly, like not today, not tomorrow, but probably this weekend. I think I'm going to do like a watch party or like a response reaction to the Operation High Jump thing, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. It's very interesting. They talk about, the warm weather, like the warm water pools. And I think what Bird said was, so like they're in Little America, which is like, so like they're on the bottom of the sphere, right? In Little America, which is like a pie wedge of the continent of Antarctica on the sphere. And he says that they're in Little America, and he heads south in an airplane south of the South Pole from Little America, and he found basically a continental landmass larger than the United States, larger than North America, south of the South Pole from Little America in the Antarctic, right? So like unless dude's totally lost his mind, what he's talking about is more land, right? And so it actually makes a lot of sense that the governments of the world would put up the Antarctic Treaty, because see, the governments of the world are like evil incarnate. they're only interested in basically being parasites on their people, right? So like they want to siphon our wealth through monetary scams like the Federal Reserve fiat currency nonsense, right? And so that's their gig, and so they rely on perceived scarcity. And if we knew that there was more land, or even if we just knew about all the stuff that we could dig up in Antarctica, the price of gold would plummet, the price of oil would plummet, because on these commodities futures, they rely on perceived scarcity in order to manipulate the markets and continue to stay rich, right? I mean, it's not good enough that they just scam us on every dollar that we earn, save, and spend, right? But they also have to scam us on like fucking the ground that we walk upon and like, oh, escape? No, there's no escape, right? I mean, I think like, so like, the people who are proponents for the whole dome thing, and, I'm not opposed to a dome. I've just never seen any evidence for a dome. The whole motive for the dome, like if we lived in an enclosed system with no escape, right? So like if there's a dome with some sort of a solid base structure somewhere south of the Antarctic, right? um, if that's the case and we live on a system with no escape, then why would they need to trick us into believing we live on a system with no escape, which is what the ball is, right? It's a system that you logically cannot escape from, even if you're the smartest rat in the world. If you live in an infinite like loop maze, right? You're not going to even try to get out of it, right? Even the smartest rat in the world wouldn't. But I think that the moment that people realize that there probably is more land out there, even if there is a dome in the sky that has some foundation south, right? Which remains to be seen, by the way. But even if that's the case, there's probably way more land out there that are just not on our maps, right? Beyond the known confines of our realm. And yeah, I think if we were to say nix NASA like tomorrow and take that $22 billion annually and put it towards actual exploration of the frontier, it would pay off in tremendous ways very quickly. But unfortunately, the rulers, the archons of this world, they really don't want us to prosper like that, and explore beyond. They want us confined and like I don't know, like maybe they want our money, but it's almost like they are more like spiritual vampires, right? I don't know, man. But I wanted to just post these couple of thoughts for you guys. I'm not going to get long-winded tonight. As you can tell, I'm about to lose my voice. It's very cold. I got to get up super early tomorrow morning, but I will be. I may be doing a stream tomorrow afternoon. So definitely be on the lookout for my posts. I'll try to post up some alerts for y'all. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that, share. Da, 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 da. One love, you guys. As always, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hasta mañana. Alrighty.